I'm Kerry Rowett, and this is the Align and Attract podcast, helping you to create your version of an aligned business. Let's dive into today's episode.
The Online Business Paradigm Shift series on the Align and Attract podcast, part 2. Welcome to this incredible 3-part series, which is going to give you so much insight about how you might thrive in this changing environment we find ourselves in. I hope you've already listened to part 1. We've been hearing so much incredible feedback about it. Please do continue to share the episode with your friends. And just a reminder, I've had a workbook created for these first 2 episodes, which you can find at alignandattract.com/workbook. It includes speaker quotes, key points, and reflection questions for your own musings. If you have noticed big shifts in the online business world lately, you are definitely not alone. Lackluster launches, falling prices, messaging pivots, and big exits. So what's really going on? Behind the scenes, many entrepreneurs, coaches, and transformational leaders have been discussing how to adapt, evolve, and thrive in this ever-changing environment. How to respond to changing market perceptions and even falling demand. Some of the commonly accepted wisdom on growing a business is out the window. Or is it? In an era where the creation of ideas and access to information is at an all-time high, we are uniquely positioned to lead the charge towards innovation and transformation. And that means you and me. Today, I bring you in on these normally closed-door discussions that happen on Messenger, on WhatsApp, in Voxer, and share the wisdom of some of the biggest names in the transformational business world online. These conversations were catalysed after I published episode 120 on the Align and Attract podcast, Are We in a Paradigm Shift in Online Business? This goes beyond just market changes. I asked if there is a deeper shift taking place. I recommend you listen to that along with episodes 121 and 122 for the full context of these discussions. And that's where I share more of my own observations. When episode 120 went live, it sparked a lot of discussion, and my client and friend Leonie Dawson suggested I invite some of our friends onto the podcast to talk about what they are also seeing and experiencing, what is working, and what advice they have for you as an online business owner. I put it out into a few group chats, and sure enough, so many were keen. And amazingly available. Some of us have been clients of each other. We've been part of programs together. We're friends of friends. From there, just realizing this conversation had so much interest, I invited a few more women to enrich the conversation. And this is the second of 3 roundtables or panel discussions, which I know that you are already loving and you're going to continue to love. Today, you'll be hearing from Victoria Gibson, business and life coach, Clare Wood, money mentor, Tash Corbin, business coach and mentor, Annie Gichuru, racial equity coach, Brigit Esselmont, owner of Biddy Tarot, Rube Lee, flow science coach, and myself, Kerry Rowett, kinesiologist and Reiki master. You can find the websites for each of these incredible guests along with their Instagram handles in the show notes. Be sure to tag us when you are sharing online, and I cannot wait to hear your insights. Let's dive in to part 2 of this incredible discussion. So welcome, Victoria Gibson, Ruby Lee, Tash Corbin, Clare Wood, and Brigit Esselmont, and Annie Gichuru. I'm so excited to have all of you here with me today on this call. So let's start off by talking about what it is that we are seeing in terms of shifts in the online space. What is really different to what it was a year or more ago? And also, what's not working anymore? Clare, can you kick us off, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for organizing this for a start, Kerry. And look, I think it's pretty safe to say that times have changed since a couple of years ago. And looking around some of the faces, we're in a Zoom call for those of you listening on the podcast, seeing a lot of nodding heads. So things have changed, and in some ways that has changed for the better. Some of my clients, my biz friends, their businesses are thriving, delivering more revenue than they ever have. And other businesses, industries are changing. And I'm going to put my hand up and say that my business is one of those. Things have changed to what they used to be. And it's not all doom and gloom. I'm certainly still getting clients reaching out to work with me, and a lot of my clients are at a high ticket space as well. So it's not like the online world has completely disappeared or people aren't buying. I know I myself, I'm still investing in courses, programs, mentors, etc. But it's not what it used to be a couple of years ago. So a big thing that we're seeing is that times are changing, the economy's changing, and people are making different decisions with their money online.
Beautiful. Brigit, what are you seeing?
I think what's interesting from my perspective is like AI and the amount of content that's really being created as a result of AI. So there's a lot of things that I love about AI. It does make things a lot faster, but it also means that we've got a lot more content just going boof, boof, boof into the world. And it becomes questionable about like, okay, well, what is actually human created, human felt type content versus, this robotic, like it sounds good, it's got emojis in the right place, but something actually just doesn't quite feel right about it. So I think what I'm really connecting in with is what feels different is what is actually real and authentic versus what is kind of made up, and what's kind of contributing to maybe it's like the quality versus the quantity, because AI again helps us create a whole lot more quantity, but is that quantity even really like the core essence of what we want to be putting out there? So when it comes to things that I don't think are working as well, totally agree, like in terms of the economics and attracting people into your business and so on, it's always a little bit bumpy, but for me too, it's just been about like, how can I show up as authentically as possible? How can I get through this like noise that is out there, and it's just going, it's always going to continue, and how do I create like a human connection with people, something that is like I'm speaking from heart to heart, not even just like I'm saying the right things, but there's something in here that's just going vroom into the hearts of the people that I know that I'm meant to reach.
Yes, it's that personal connection is really making a difference. It's something I'm seeing right now as well. Ruby, what are you seeing?
I'm just nodding so much over here to both Clare and Brigit. And I totally agree around having so much go out there from a content perspective and what Clare was saying about the economy. But I think what I'm really noticing with certainly a lot of my clients who come to me to work with Flow in particular is what feels out, so to speak, is working to somebody else's blueprint. It kind of feels a few years ago, every single piece of marketing was about, here is my exact blueprint and the exact strategy to get to your most desired results. And I'm finding a lot of my clients now going, do you know what? I've tried that and it feels so hard. It feels like it's not quite working. It's not quite sticking. And there is so much, I think, right now with where we're at as an entrepreneurial a community of where we're being called to really understand how we're meant to work and what feels really authentic for us. And this also leads into the conversation of, if you have been pressing so hard in your business and pushing so hard and feeling like working harder is just not working right now, that's probably calling you up to understanding more about your energy, more about flow, more about how it is that you are best meant to work. I've seen at least 4 of my very, very close peer friends and business besties who have closed down some of their biggest programs, announcing closures of their masterminds, for example, because they genuinely feel so burnt out and they feel as though they've been creating businesses that just don't feel heart-centered, to Bridget's point, anymore. So I definitely feel like it's a time when we are being called so, so deeply into how it's meant to work for us.
Oh my gosh, I totally see it the same. Tash.
Yeah, I was just going to grab onto that about the authenticity and the connection. And something that's not working that I'm seeing is that there's become a big aspiration gap. So from a very tangible perspective, if I am impacted by cost of living issues, then Louis Vuitton handbags and giant luxury travel experiences are so far away that they're actually creating more disconnect than that aspirational lifestyle that we've seen resonate. So like, you kind of have to, because there's getting a bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots, you have to kind of pick a team. You either need to, if you're going to stick with aspirational and that big glossy lifestyle, you need to understand that there's a certain income level that is only for, and that's only going to resonate with. But for those people who are struggling in the past, it may have been a nice to have, or I'll be there one day and I'm here, I'm following this because, you know, I'm really excited about the day that I can have that. But because things are so much harder, it's so far away, it almost feels frivolous to be focused on that for a big portion of the market. And so from a very tangible perspective, I think being glossier, having bigger dollar figures, being fancier these days is not actually working anymore for a very large portion of the market. And so we're seeing this sort of big divide. And so that's where that middle row, it really needs to be reimagined, and people's goals are just not the same as they used to be. And so, yeah, it's that sort of race to the top is not as effective anymore. I've got a fancier experience, or I've got a better car, or whatever it might be. That's just not connecting with where people are experiencing their life and what they want for themselves the way that it used to. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Resonating with so much of that. Annie, what are you seeing?
Oh, there's been a big change when it comes to inclusion work, when it comes to racial inclusion work since 2020 to where we are today. It's a vast difference. And initially, when I saw the change happening, I was like, well, what does this mean? But it's been a good thing in that it's getting rid of that kind of stampede mentality that was there in the beginning of, we need to learn now, we need to sign up for every program that's available, we need to read every book on the list, and we just need to be doing so that we are being as inclusive as we can. But what I've seen over the years is that, you know, Brigit, what you were saying about quantity versus quality, that those who are now stepping into this work, we're able to actually go deeper. It's not just surface level anymore. We're going deeper. This is work that is steeped into their values and how they're operating their system. And so whilst it's changed dramatically in terms of numbers, those who are still coming through are coming through with intention. And it's you don't even have to almost convince them to do this work, because they know this is work that is really aligned to who they are as human beings.
Like a maturing is the way I'm hearing that. Yes.
Absolutely.
Victoria, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think I agree with all the points that have been raised here, but particularly with that decline in trust. So with the increase in, offers, noise and opportunity, and much lower barriers to entry that we've seen since 2020, with people, like a rise in awareness of being able to come into the industry and a lot more people selling those opportunities, that sometimes the quality is, it can be very, it can be wide ranging and variable. And we're seeing a lot more of that negativity about the experiences that have been created and a lot less trust. So speaking to Brigit's point about really growing that intimacy and connection, that distinction that you can share and create with your messaging will really stand you in a lot better stead, and set you apart from that competition. So even though there is more competition and maybe, due to economics and the maturity of the industry, we're seeing that some of the, conversion rates may be slowing, and, perhaps people are leaving, some of the providers are leaving the market because it's getting tougher and they haven't got the depth of value to offer anymore. So that gives us a really great opportunity as, those who are serious about delivering valuable experiences. And I know with some of my private clients, like I've ran Facebook ads for many clients over the last 14 years, and Facebook ads can still work, or Instagram, or whatever paid traffic you decide to choose can still work. But what I am seeing is that you need a very clear distinction in terms of the method and that value that you create, the affinity with your market, having a really new and fresh opportunity, as well as potentially also going into those sub layers of markets are working very well, where you're not trying to cast the net so wide and chase all the demand that everybody else is scrambling for, or has been scrambling for over the last few years. And I think that sets you up for a lot more success, as well as having the systems to bring new people in to your world, and nurture them over a longer time. So we saw a lot of that high ticket offers out there, and there's nothing wrong with that essentially, but the old days of like land on a page and here you go, let's have a chat and jump into a high ticket program. The trust isn't as widespread as it used to be for that. And I think that's where we're seeing more of a multi-step process, that people need a longer tail experience with you before saying yes.
Yes.
I jump on to the end of that as well. Sorry. I definitely see where in the past people would have purchased because they want the outcome, right? They trust that, okay, well, I want this outcome and you're saying you deliver it and you've got 14 examples of people who got it, so I'll give it a go. Where people used to take a risk on that, now I'm seeing so much more buyer discernment around, well, what is the process and how is that process anything different to what I've tried before or what someone else has told me? And we're definitely seeing that pushback with the big explosion of manifesting on TikTok and some of that short form content. We're now seeing a lot more pushback on that, back to lived experience, but I need to pay my rent, but I need to be able to live here. And so it's all well and good that you're going to help me manifest these beautiful things, and you tell me that I just need to embody this and I need to, vibrate with that. But ultimately people need that trust, and that also that belief in the process is actually going to get them there. And so rather than bigger results or more client testimonials, the thing that people are really connecting with is, I can see the step-by-steps that you are going to take me through, and it makes sense to me that is why I haven't got there before. And so I 100% agree with you, Victoria. There is so much more discernment about process over, like, it's that substance over style kind of approach now. And it's really good. And I even see people commenting on some of that content saying, like, you're not going to be able to bypass the fact I can't pay my rent. So people are using terminology, around spiritual bypassing and lived experience and those types of things, and seeing how, like, sometimes it's just that, just believe and everything will be okay. There's a real discernment now around the process, which is really cool.
And the inherent privilege in some of that messaging. I wonder if you'd like to add to that, Annie, from your perspective.
Yeah, I think it's bringing back the humanizing aspect of how we do business. You know, a couple of years ago, it was this is what works. As you said, Tash, a couple of testimonials, and like, yeah, I want that outcome. But then you get in and you're like, hang on, what worked for you? Play by play, still my, playbook, and it will help you, make X amount of money. It might not work. It probably won't work. And speaking for myself as a Black woman, I don't have the same connections that you have. I don't belong to the same table that you belong to. So if you're claiming to say that what has worked for you, granted it's worked for you, may not work for me. So how can what expertise and skill you have still be transferable, still be a skill that you can help me reach that goal that I need to see? So humanizing that process, and even seeing those launches where, it's 3-4 days, make a decision, let's go. Unless you're obviously one of those big names in the industry who are able to do that because they have the numbers. Coming back to everyday small business, it's a little bit different. You need to build trust. You don't want to put that kind of pressure on people where they're going by, getting a credit card just to buy this program that doesn't quite deliver what they thought it would. It's all about what I'm seeing now is building those relationships, really anchoring yourself in sharing, and building trust, and really going back to that yes, like, no, and like trust factor of people. And that's a big differentiator. Relationship building. For me, I can say probably 90+% of my clientele has been through word of mouth and relationship building, where people are saying, hey, Annie, I can't afford to do this right now. I'm a stay-at-home mom. We only have one income. And I'm saying, hey, hang on, don't break the bank. I'm launching again in 6 months. Don't break the bank for that. And just having those honest conversations, which initially felt strange because I didn't see people doing that in the industry. It was like, you got to send 10 emails. You got to do this in 10 days. And it just didn't feel like me. And now we're seeing a switch where people want to be seen for who they are. Yes, I have rent to pay. How is this going to help me? But can we actually build a relationship first? Can we be friends? Can we get to know one another so that I can trust you? And when I'm taking that step, I'm actually making a very confident buy in what you have to sell.
Beautiful. We're already seeing some themes emerging here, aren't we, around trust, relationships, clarity, specificity. And I'm seeing that as well, about really needing to be so clear on what it is that you do, how it is specifically that you're supporting your clients to get results is really what I'm seeing to work. And so let's go deeper into this conversation around what it is that we do see to be working. So how it is that you have been evolving your businesses into the changes you're seeing, and what you are now seeing to work in your business. Clare, I'm going to come back to you because we haven't heard from you in a little while.
Yeah, so this all kind of connects in with the similar themes that everyone's saying. I'm actually starting to see a lot of the, I guess, names that popped up and, made $1 million in their first year of business aren't sort of, you're starting to see them sort of disappearing away. That's just, this could be just totally my perception, but this is something that I am seeing, and that a lot of the people who've been around for a long time who do have that trust factor are still here, showing up, and not disappearing away because things are getting tough. They're still showing up and still sharing, and, even being really vulnerable. It's something I'm really trying to do with my audience as well, is say, hey, this is what I'm doing to adapt my business in these changing times, and me sharing with my audience my journey and what I'm finding is working and what I'm finding is not working as well. Some of the things that I'm doing differently. I used to be really heavy on communicating a lot in my Instagram stories. Was a big thing that I was doing. I was talking to the same people again and again and again. And what I've been doing now is, rather than talking to the same set of people, I'm actually opening up, spending a lot more of my time focusing on finding new markets, on having conversations on platforms that I haven't been on before. And what I've found on this journey is that, and maybe some people who've been in business for a while can relate, there was a lot of broken bits and pieces in my business. So I'm talking My podcast pages couldn't be found, weren't discoverable on Google, broken links on my website, funnel that went nowhere. And what I've been able to do during this period of time is really be setting my business up behind the scenes and saying, how can I actually build a more robust and sustainable business so that people come and have a cohesive experience with the brand, rather than someone comes, lands on a page, and I'm like, I actually don't have that service anymore. My apologies. Or that email link takes you nowhere. Or you try and Google a podcast episode of mine and can't even find it. So really starting to expand the audiences that I'm connecting with. And it's interesting when you've been in business for a long time. I've been doing this for nearly 8.5 years now. How many broken things can be behind the scenes in your business, and how you kind of just keep doing the same thing and hoping for a different outcome. And so that's sort of what I'm doing, is really being very intentional about firstly reaching new audiences, continuing to serve my current audience. It's really tempting to go, I'm going to stop my podcast. I'm going to stop emailing my list. I'm like, no, these people, some of them have been with me right from the start, and they still deserve to be served and to be getting information and to be helped and supported in their business during this time, but also reaching out very intentionally to find new audiences. So that is something that I'm seeing, and also the conversation around AI, starting to really explore how that can support me and my clients, but doing it in an ethical way. It's one of the biggest challenges and also threats, I think, to us as business owners, is having bots writing content. And, I think that, again, starting to explore what that looks like, understand more, and being able to incorporate AI into my business and my clients in what feels to be an ethical and aligned way.
Yes, so many incredible points in there. And I want to pick up on one of the earlier points that you made, which was around authenticity and being really real. And I know that, Brigit, you did touch on that earlier, but I wondered if you'd like to go a little bit deeper in how that's looking for you, because you do run a very substantial business where you could completely hide away behind the scenes.
Yeah, and it's interesting, just sitting here and always like listening and taking it all in. But even just a few years ago, I was hitting burnout. So I was like, oh, I don't, where's my exit? How do I get a resignation letter here, right? Because I was just exhausted. And I ran all sorts of different options through my mind about what I could do. And one of them was like, oh, maybe I should just kind of step back out of the business, just let my team run the business. And I did that probably for, 12, 18 months. I was like, try and get my face out of it all. Like, maybe this is the way I'm going to get my energy back. And I was just miserable because, I wasn't there connecting with my students and my community anymore. It felt very cookie cutter because, there's only so much. I can definitely communicate my vision into the team, but they receive it in a certain way through their own filters, and then they're sharing that out into the world as well. And so really in the last, I would say 12 months, I've really stepped back into my business, but I've done it in a way that now I have a fantastic team of 18 people. They run all the day-to-day operations. I can just focus on vision and content and being present with my community. And it gives me so much more energy to be able to show up as my full and whole self. And then at the same time, I'm going through quite a rapid spiritual evolutionary journey, in behind the scenes. And what that is enabling me to do is get so much clearer about what is my vision, what is my mission in this lifetime, who am I, how am I standing in this earth, and then how can I bring that into my business in the most authentic way? Because I think in the past it's been a bit like, oh yeah, I've got a business, it's in tarot, let's sell some tarot courses. But now I'm like, no, stuff that. This is actually about bringing intuition, and saying yes to intuition and reclaiming our whole birthright to intuition, because it's been taken away from us. And I get so fired up again about, what the work that we're doing. And I think that really translates into the way that I'm connecting with my community. And I just want to add in something, because So Kerry and Ruby pulled some cards before our call, and we were surprised that they happened to be the same card, 10 of Pentacles. And, you know, as we were chatting, I was like, I wonder what the tarot has to say about all of what we're talking about. And, oh, I don't know, maybe I pulled the 10 of Pentacles as well.
Oh, wow.
And I just wanted to share a couple of insights on this because I think it actually speaks a lot to what we've been talking about. And 10 of Pentacles to me is very much about it's like an establishment of family and community and and I think that the businesses that are really thriving and succeeding are those that are established. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean on a timeline, but those who actually have a strong sense of who they are and what their mission is and can share that with their community in a very stable and founded way. 10 is very much the completion of a cycle. You know exactly who you are and what you have to share. And it's not this kind of fake, like I can create a course in AI kind of, thing. It's like, this is actually coming from my whole heart. And the other card that I drew is my favorite, the High Priestess. And this speaks very much to intuition and really knowing ourselves. So if I was to kind of summarize all of that into what I think is actually working, is it's actually knowing oneself. And the business knowing itself, and you knowing how you come into connection with what it is that you're offering, and almost not even seeing it as a business anymore, but seeing it as a mission and a privilege, an honor to be able to share this work with your community. Yeah. So, okay, I'll jump off my high horse now.
I totally love that.
it.
It's 100% what I am seeing as well is those who are willing to go deep into themselves and into their work and to build or rebuild a body of work. They are the people who are lit up by what they're doing, and that is magnetic in any environment, particularly when you're focused on results. Who would like to go next? Tash.
I'd love to add a little something in there, and that is that we have seen previously that people were rewarded for riding the wave. So if you were early to a platform, you were rewarded. If you were early to a concept, you were rewarded. So I call that as like the ride the wave thing, where you're looking at what is hot, what is new. Even in AI, the early circles, that was rewarded because everyone was so curious about it. But now what we're seeing is there've been so many waves, it's kind of like this storm. And so now the analogy of be the rock in the river feels like it is far more connected. Like if you stay strong with what you're talking about, and all of these waves are going to come and go, but if your body of work, if what you are known for is your unique approach or your way of supporting people, then it doesn't really matter what the waves are. So it doesn't matter if the AI wave comes and goes. No AI is going to be able to rewrite what it is that you have come to create. And it doesn't matter if the wave of different platforms comes and goes. If you have that solid sense of who you are, who your community is, and you nurture those relationships carefully, then it doesn't really matter what those waves are. And so we're seeing less of that churn and burn approach to leads and people joining your list and those sorts of things. People are paying far more attention to unsubscribe rates now, because it used to be, well, if they unsubscribe, well, they were never going to buy from me anyway, so let them go. But now we're seeing that people are actually valuing, it's costing more to get each lead. It's taking more time and more content to get each person in your audience. So why would you then take that person for granted because they didn't buy when you sent 17 emails in 3 days? And so we're seeing a lot more of this sort of slow, gentle build of relationship, which it's funny because that's always been how I've done stuff, but it's been so awesome to see that even consumers are starting to smarten up to why am I getting this much at this particular point in time? And what's really working is seeing that human to human connection as the most valuable. And so, yeah, I just love that analogy of like, don't ride the wave, just be the rock, be clear on who you are and what you do. And that magnetism of I know who I am, I know what I have to offer is just, it's working so beautifully now. Yeah,
it is. Ruby, you've created a body of work around flow. What would you like to add to this?
I honestly am in so much resonance with what the other ladies are saying. Like literally when I was thinking about what this looks like, what came to me was more connection inside of the business. And I really feel like the last couple of years has been about how much can we scale this thing out, right? Like that's been the whole conversation online. How many people can we hire and what streams of income can we put into play and what funnels can we build out? How much can we throw towards ads? And I definitely feel there is such a returning of home. Like in my own personal business, I've had a lot of people come in, join the team. It's been awesome. They've set up processes and structure. But what's happened in that is that similar to what Brigit was saying, I've sort of lost this real plug in, into what it is that I want to be sharing, not just because this is trending or not just because this is the next launch and I need to now speak on this. Like I go back to when I first started the business 6 years ago now, so still pretty new into it. But when I started, it was all based off documenting and sharing my story. My main platform was LinkedIn, and in many ways it still is. And I was documenting so much on there and talking about my journey from quitting the job, going into the side hustle gig, starting the business full time. And I'm like, at what point did we lose that? Do you know, it's like that was so much fun. And at what point did it become about how many emails we sent and, how long a launch period was going to be? And now just coming back to center, I mean, it's probably been a good 18 months now where I'm like, right, I feel like I've got a beautiful, small and mighty team. There's 5 of us. I'm working a lot smarter in the way of, really executing on things more precisely rather than just needing to be on everywhere all the time. So, I've definitely prioritized a lot more of my lifestyle and having spaciousness on the calendar, but giving back to my clients in a way that just feels really, really balanced and just feeling so embodied with this work around flow and being in the world of flow states and understanding what it is that now the next era or the next generation of entrepreneurs, what they need to hear about it so that they are so much more connected into how you can do more, have more, but not need to work more as part of the process. So yeah, that's definitely been my journey with all of this. It's been wonderful.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Ruby. Annie, you've been making some observations about social media, which really build on from what Ruby was just saying here around it's become this tool for something far deeper. Could you elaborate on that for us, please?
So social media, my main platform is Instagram. And so it's not so much as it was that educational tool. Here are 5 tips to this and the other. I've seen it as a way of building a deeper relationship with people, getting to know them. And a lot of my close friends have actually come out of having discussions from DMs and not meeting for many years and finally meeting in person. And you're just kind of staring at each other going like, we're here, we've met. And so just seeing that transition changing from a place where it was very educational to now being one where relationships are being built. And I also have to say that what I have seen that is working specifically for me is not the looking around to where can I get the next, who are going to be the next cohort of the round that I'm running, but squarely fixing my focus on the people who are already hot yeses in my community. How can I serve them? How can I give more of myself in terms, not burning myself out, but how can I just appreciate and serve them? And that in itself goes and rewards you in that other people get to hear about this work based on how you've served the people that you have in front of you. And I think that is something that's been missed a lot when many have gotten into that bandwagon of how can we get more? How can we make, 6, 7, 8 figures, and just not, when is enough enough? And when do we get back to actually serving, actually being, that person who is seeing that pain point, seeing that problem and alleviating that pain for their clients. And so for me, what I'm seeing is that relationship in social media really shifting and being genuine, not those DMs we get like, oh, you're doing really great, would like to, have a chat. None of that, but just genuine conversation that you see growing into becoming beautiful relationships.
Beautiful. Thank you, Annie. Victoria, what would you like to add here?
I we were talking before, and obviously I've seen Brigit's beautiful business evolve for some time, and had the advantage of being able to actually experience her magic. And I know, even looking at your brand over the years, I'm always like, it's you, like it's everything that is you that brings people in, and that is that magical transformation of being able to leverage your natural strengths rather than just having to rely on, okay, great, people want to learn tarot, like you said, or they want this outcome. And I think that's why we've seen, you know, those big money promises and a lot of that lifestyle marketing. It taps into an innate human desire, but it doesn't have the meaning and substance to last, particularly as the market starts to get more uncertain. So it's finding those natural strengths and talents, being able to, that means something to you, not thinking what's going to sell, right? And not what do I have to share that's going to convert. Of course, we need to be mindful of that. But if we can align that to opportunities in the market and really creating more innovation and evolution in what we're offering and going a bit deeper with that meaning, then we can start refining our offers and really, you know, sitting with them, not jumping on the next opportunity or thinking, oh, we better offer, you know, this marketing tool or add this, and all of a sudden these offers become delivering so much that also that adds to people's overwhelm. So it's really getting clear on that meaning for you and meaning for your market, and speaking to those desires in the market that have meaning for them. Like Brigit was talking about, you know, developing an intuition, if that's where your audience are, where they want to learn a new skill, or they want to be more aligned to social justice causes, or, you know, all these different archetypes that live within all of us, but what's showing up in our market, and what can you align to that's authentic, so that you're not just taking this formula that, you know, we're seeing lots of coaches getting discussed in online forums, and, you know, it's pretty brutal. A lot of the mistruths and you know, fallacies that have been pushed in, you know, I'm sure coming from a very good place and riding a wave and scrambling along, but that stuff isn't going to fly anymore. It's not hidden. The conversations are not hidden, and your brand can be destroyed in a moment when you're not in alignment with that meaning and the values. So that's one of the other things that I'm seeing way more than ever before, where forums, it's not just a Facebook group anymore. Now you don't have to put your name to what you're saying, and the stuff that gets shared in those Reddit forums, that's brand killing, absolutely. So yeah, that's another thing I'm seeing a lot of.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much, Victoria. There's a big shift around messaging, which several different people have alluded to and talked to already. But Tash, I wonder if you could speak to that in more detail, what you're seeing to be the change around messaging and what's required.
Yeah, I definitely see there is a need for messaging to incorporate the process, as I was saying before, that it's not enough now to talk about big, amazing results, or to just share those testimonials without that groundedness of, well, what did they have before they started working with you? Or what were the privileges that that person had access to that I may not have access to? So that's definitely been huge in the shift in messaging that really works. I also think I've had a lot more inquiries from what I would have considered very successful businesses in helping with those foundational parts of their marketing and helping with that real clarity, like Victoria was saying, of, but what is your thing? What is your space? And what is the inherent desire people already have, or the goal they're already focused on, that you can assist them to achieve with your work? And so, like Annie was saying, with the wave after 2020 into the inclusion space, now to stand out as someone who offers inclusion work, it needs to link in, well, what is it that you want to do that you know inclusion is a non-negotiable for? Or so it might be running events or offering, you know, summits or those sorts of things. Now, if we attach it to that existing goal, there's far more tangibility and application of that work, rather than I'm just doing this because I know everyone has to now, or I'm just doing this because it looks good. People see that it's actually that baseline non-negotiable. And so it's making the a lot of the esoteric pieces and the spiritual work, the healing, the mindset modalities, those sorts of things, is like needing to come down into, okay, well, if I shift my mindset, what difference does that make to my life and what I live today? And how does that help me get closer to my goal? And the connection needs to be far more explicit, rather than, if you want this goal, then you need to work on your mindset. That's too loose. And so what I'm doing a lot of work on with people at the moment is actually helping to really bridge that gap between what you want to talk about and what people are experiencing and what their existing goals are, because it's more difficult to change someone's goals and priorities than it is to just hook into something they're already excited about or something they're already committing time and energy to. And so a lot more focus on that, like grounded messaging and messaging that is aligned with what people are focused on. But it also means, what I'm seeing is a lot more people in those spaces are actually like really creating that resonance, and the embracing of the tangible has actually meant that they're getting a lot more momentum, and people aren't just seeing it as a nice to have. We're seeing far more of like tapping into my intuition is a baseline need. Working in an inclusive way is a baseline need. And so it's been really interesting, because there was a fear at first that, like, if I don't talk into, I help you make more money, I help you grow your business, I help you get more clients, if it's not something like that, then there's no way people are going to buy from me. But actually, we don't see that as much anymore. We're seeing a lot more of stay in your lane, talk to the things that you want to talk about, but just tap into, in your audiences, what is it that they already want? And that's really powerful to see. Yeah, I'm having so much fun.
I love it so much, Tash. Annie, would you like to add anything to what Tash was just saying?
Oh, that's a masterclass, Tash. That is a masterclass on its own. So many things to share on that. Absolutely. When it comes to things like inclusion, tying it to what are the core foundations of your business, and what I am seeing that is working really, really well with clients who want to go deeper. They've done the course, they've read the book, inviting me to come in as their chief inclusion officer who's overseeing their business foundations. How are we doing our questionnaires when, we're trying to get to know our clients? What kind of questions are we asking? Are they inclusive questions, or are they questions that are, making them feel a certain way, particularly for those who have marginalized identities? The kind of resources we're putting out, are they just coming from a one lens kind of situation, or are they inclusive of other voices as well? And that just being pretty much throughout how they're operating their business, their frameworks. And so inclusion ends up being something that is naturally coming through, rather than them asking, am I being performative? Am I ticking a box? Because when you know you're being genuine, you don't ask that question. You don't ask that question of a partner. Am I really being genuine here? You know when you are, and you know when you're not. And so that's what I'm seeing, that relationship between the messaging being so specific and not superficial. But I've also had to adjust my messaging as well, whereby we did go through that period where it was very much talking about how to make money, how do you increase, how do you make more, and trying to make the connection between inclusion and income. Because of course, if you're attracting people from different backgrounds than yourself, your income is going to grow, of course. And so making that connection for a lot of people, and going like, oh, I hadn't seen that. I didn't know that neglecting this piece of work was costing me money, but also doing it from a place that's genuine. Because if you're only doing it to grow your bank account, if you're only doing it to grow your business, it's not something that will be, at the end of the day, sustainable.
Annie, that was brilliant. Would anyone like to add anything to this discussion about what it is that you're seeing to be working? Anything burning you up where you're like, I just really want to say this? Perfect. What is your final advice for people who might be struggling in their online business right now, where they're just like, oh my gosh, I really feel like nothing's working. Where should I focus? What should I do? What would your advice be, Tash?
So, one of the biggest challenges we may see at the moment is the ability to reach new people or get in front of new audiences, because there's so much content. We're dealing with AI, ad spend, blah, blah, blah. The most reassuring thing I can tell anyone who's struggling in their business is that if you're neglecting the people you already have access to in your already audience, your already clients, already people in your spaces, and you are trying to go out and find new ones, just shift back to what you have, right? I see so many people who are putting more time, more money, more effort into this like expansive type thing and wanting to get in front of new audiences, more audiences. But if you're struggling right now, the number one thing you can do is nurture the audience you already have and become adept at being a student of the human and really deeply understanding those people. The internet is a two-way vessel, and yet we still see, like if you Google the definition of marketing, it is still all about what you say and what you do and what you show, and it has nothing to do with listening. It has nothing to do with asking. And yet we don't market on a television that's a one-way method anymore. We're marketing on a space, on a platform that invites a two-way connection. And I think a lot of people who really get caught up in that struggle, they think that they're not going to be successful because they can't reach enough people. They can't get in front of enough people and speak to enough people. But actually, if you have a two-way conversation with someone, that is far more valuable to you as a business owner, that is far more insightful about what is going on for people. And it's also far more likely to generate that deep relationship we've been talking about, that generates trust and that generates that sale, that generates that person saying, I really need help with this. Can you please help me? And so my number one piece of advice to people who are struggling is actually stop talking and start listening and start asking, because you have the capacity to respond to what your audience wants, to respond to what they need, to respond to what is going on. And if we step away from thinking that what we need to do is produce more and instead focus on being able to respond more, you will actually meet an existing need. You don't have to create one. You will respond to an existing desire. You don't have to create one. And so I just see there's so much potential in that relationship and that two-way conversation, and yet people are missing it because they're so busy trying to go and find the AI generated content or the platform that will get them the most reach, or where am I going to get the biggest audience? Where am I going to get the most eyeballs? But if it's all one way, it's so much less likely to result in a connected relationship, and a connected relationship is what results in sales. And so, yeah, I think anyone who's struggling, you already have access to the right people in most cases. You already have so much potential in what you have already built. Just pay attention to that. And in a lot of cases, that means a lot less time and a lot less money, focused on getting out in front of more and more people. And instead, if you just focus in, listen, ask, be responsive, it's far more effective at actually generating. And especially anyone in the high ticket space, particularly, we're seeing like people don't go, as Victoria said, people don't go to a sales page and just buy from a stranger on the internet. They don't do that anymore. And it doesn't matter how many amazing testimonials there are or how many amazing stories they've seen, they just don't do things like that anymore. They are really looking for, do you care about me? But what about my situation? Will this work for me? I understand it worked for all of them. Will this work for me? This is what I've got going on. And if you're not listening to that story, acknowledging that story, then you're going to really struggle to create that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, Tash. Ruby, what is your advice?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so much of this question, I just put myself back in the shoes of when I started. And it's such a different time, but I think the construct of this is the same. if you are struggling in business right now, I just really want you to go back and connect to why you started this in the first place. We can get so caught up with all the bells and whistles that we need to produce inside of the business from an operational perspective. And that's often why you lose the spark, why you lose the passion, why you lose purpose and connection to your work. So I know for me, anytime I feel just really blah or just like overthinking the whole damn thing, for me, it's like, you know what? The reason why I wanted to do this was to help people get to here. And there is something so empowering about that because this does something to you. It does something to your energy. It gets you back on the laptop, producing maybe a piece of content that you would have never thought to write, or go do a live stream that you would have overthunk so much around, and not actually just go there and hit live and maybe just put together a cute little fun offer that really is responding well, right, to you, where you're like, this would be so fun if I put this out there. How playful. And I don't really mind how many people see it. I don't really mind even if I'm going to make a ton of cash from it, or if I'm super profitable. All I know is that I'm doing this because I want to do it. And there's something about that momentum which leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing. Okay. So there is something so beautiful about that. And what I'm finding is working really well for me, for my clients right now, is having small bite-sized offers that are easy to put together. If you're in this sort of funk and you're not sure how to get things moving again, small bite-sized something or other. Like I ran a $99 offer and it was a 3-day fun little challengey event thing. I will tell you that was an amazing momentum booster for so many of my clients to also see how it works inside of my business. And then from there, I launched another mini mind, and then private clients came from it. So there's so many options, but it's up to you to begin the flow. And it might not be in the same old box that you've been trying to fit everything in. Think outside, color out the lines a little bit, and just, there's something about that real playful energy. I just want to remind everybody that we get to play and have fun during this time as well.
Yeah, that's so fabulous. Thank you, Ruby. Brigit, what is your advice?
Everything Ruby just said, yeah. But for reals. Yeah, I can relate with that so much, because I think that is, one of the shadow sides of building a large business that is successful, is that sometimes, you can lose a little bit of that spark and that inspiration again. And for me, what has been critical in my journey was reconnecting with, what am I really doing this for? Like, what is my why? And reconnecting with that mission. And then I think it's also leading from that place. So what is what was the thing that called you into doing the work that you're doing? And then what is it that's stirring in those people that you are about to reach out to? How can you connect your call and your inspiration with where they're sitting in their journey? And how can you kind of meet in that same place, and then, be inspired by that same call at the same time? Now, of course, I'm also going to say, just get a deck of Biddy tarot cards, Biddy tarot cards, and go online to Biddy tarot. No. And get in touch with your intuition through meditation, just listening, just quietness, because instead of, doing that next thing on your to-do task, I'm speaking to myself here, by the way, because I need to stop doing my to-do task so much. But instead of just doing that next thing, how can you drop back into your beingness? How can you be in that place of calm, alignment, peace, connection, all of those beautiful things that, you want to bring into your business? And how can you connect in with what's really lighting you up? I love tarot cards for that, because it's a very tangible way of connecting in with intuition. But of course, there are many, many other tools to do so. So in summary, I'd just say, get back in touch with yourself, who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, and then speak. I know it sounds so cliche, but really do actually speak from the heart. Have that calling out to your community, because they will connect with it and they will resonate with it, and it will be so strong and so beautiful, and you'll have a beautiful future together.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Brigit. Clare, your advice?
Now, mine's really unsexy compared to everyone else's. But hey, I'm a CPA, I'm a numbers gal, and I'm going to go there. Look, the one thing that I would say, the reason why most businesses go under is because of poor cash flow. And I know it's terribly unsexy. There's a term that I've coined, which is fangxiety. And I call it a fear of anxiety or a fear of finances, of looking at your numbers. And the truth is, like, when something's a bit ugly, we don't really want to go there. And when you're feeling fear about money, when you're feeling lack, I experience anxiety myself. I'm like, I just can't look at it right now. I can't deal with it. The truth is, like, there's a lot to be told in the black and white numbers. So go look at your finances, forecast your cash flow, and yes, it's uncomfortable to look at things that we don't want to look at sometimes, but often our answers are in there. And I've had to make over the years some really difficult decisions as a business owner around team, around things I'm going to, mentorships, things that decisions I really don't want to make. But when you actually sit down and look at your numbers, it is empowering as well to say, I can either keep going backwards and the business won't exist. I won't be able to help people. I won't be able to have the impact that I want to have, or I'm going to have to make some decisions about my business. And that's both on the side of cutting back, but also on the space of growth. Okay. Like, I've just had a look at my May and I'm like, right, I'm going to need another cash injection here. What does this look like? What's something that I can create that my audience needs right now? And so we get to use it in a way of, looking at what the black and white numbers are telling us, but also going, how can I use this to make decisions around my business and keep it financially secure so that I can still be here in 5-10 years' time, helping people and having the impact that I want to create. So that's going to be my advice. Sit down, look at your numbers, try and make it fun as well. One of the tips that I always share is, if you hate looking at your numbers, how can you make it a process that you enjoy? So my hubby, I love spreadsheets, but my husband, he hates them. So, once I took him to the pub, we did it with a beer in his hand. He seemed to have, a smile on his face for most of it. So what's something that you can do? Usually we go to a coffee shop. We've got our favorite coffee shop, and that's where we do our meetings. We sit down, we have a look at our money. So think of a way that you can make it fun. And Tash just dropped in here in the comment, make decisions before it's too late. And I totally agree with that. It's really empowering to say, even if it is making tough calls, you are the CEO of your business. And sometimes we're making decisions that are for the longevity of the business. So that would be my advice for people. Look at your numbers. Look at your numbers.
Claire, it's a 10 out of 10. Thank you so much. That was just brilliant. Annie, what is your advice?
Ooh, not to sound like a resounding gong, but I gotta say it because it was in my notes and Ruby took it. Remember your why. Remember your why. And for me, when I think of my why, I think of my children, because I want them to grow up in a world where they can see themselves represented, a world that accepts them regardless of their color of their skin. I want them to grow up in spaces where they can be in virtual rooms like this and feel like their voice matters, that what they have to say is actually important, and people want to hear from them. That's the kind of world that I want to live in. And so for me, my why is so personally tied to me. And something that we often say in my tribe, in my community where I come from, Kenya, is that your why has to be also tied to the betterment of your community. So my success is not just for me. It's not just for me to live in a good house and dress well and feel good. Yes, that is important to me. But who else am I bringing along on this journey? How can I help others who want to build business? How am I serving? It comes back to service. So remember your why, and your why has to be something that is so strong, that tugs on your heart, that gets you up in the morning and you're excited to do what you need to do. The second thing I will say, work it until it works. Work it this way, work it that way, work it until it works. There's so many people that we know of who have been told no, no, no. We know of Tyler Perry, an incredible movie maker, storyteller. We know of J.K. Rowling. We know of Jamie Kern Lima. People who've been told no, 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 but because they stayed the course and they worked it until it worked, you can too. And what's the proof of that? Look back and see how far you've come. You are not where you began 10 years ago, 2 years ago, a month ago. You're making steps. So keep going, because whatever you have, somebody out there needs it, and nobody can deliver it quite the way you do. So you keep going. And if it means that you need to go back to a corporate job to make things work, if it means that you need to side hustle for a little bit, do that without shame. Do what works for you. But by all means, do not give up. Work it until it works.
Oh, Annie, just beautiful magic. Thank you. I love the connection of the Remember Your Why as well. I ran a webinar 18 months ago called Remember Your Why. I just love how we're all on the same wavelength with that. Victoria, what is your advice?
Yeah, for me, I think it's leveraging what you already have. Like, there's so much opportunity to bring about better results from what you already have. And speaking to even what everyone else has talked about, but especially even Claire with the money and going to that data rather than the drama of things. Like, okay, well, if we look at the math of business, is your business mathing, right? Like, have you got enough people seeing what you've got? Have you got enough people taking up what you have? So I'm working with some of my clients, I'm like, you know, you're beating yourself up about this offer, but it's great. Imagine if you could just get a 1% extra conversion rate on that one offer, everything like totally turns around. So it's rather than saying, oh, no one wants that anymore, it's how could you refine it? How could you make those little incremental shifts from what you already have? And that might be also, yeah, doing more of the things yourself to perhaps limit some of those costs that are going out. And also not making, I see a lot of people coming to me very disappointed in what they haven't created in like really short amounts of time as well. It's like, well, who said that you had to create that in a short period of time? Who said that you have to hit this level, otherwise you're not a serious business owner? It's going to be different for everybody. So not taking on that disappointment as an identity, I think is really, really important. That I see happen a lot. This weight of expectation is causing people to really get very stuck and miss a lot of opportunities. So I'd invite you to let go of the disappointment, simplify, but definitely data over drama.
The most exceptional advice from everyone. Thank you so much for your incredible gifts, everything that you bring the world, all of the honesty and wisdom you have brought to all the listeners today. I'm just imagining everyone listening and like, okay, I need to go back to the start and re-listen and take like 16 pages of notes. You were all so wonderful. Thank you so much. This was episode 124 of the Align and Attract podcast. And that means you can find all of the relevant show notes over at alignandattract.com/blog/124. That is also where you'll find the video of this podcast episode. I'd love to encourage you to share this episode with your friends, share it online. You will find the Instagram handles to tag everyone from this episode in the show notes. And don't forget to download the workbook that goes with this episode and the previous episode at alignandattract.com/workbook. I will be sure to let you know when the third part of this series is going to be live. But for now, soak in the wisdom, enjoy reflecting on everything that you have learned, and don't forget to take action. Talk to you soon.